Hi, it's Tricia Johnston, residential realtor with Ladder and Bloom with your real estate tip of the week. I know a lot of buyers are anxiously waiting to see what new listings will be coming on the market now that we're past the holidays. As a buyer looking for the right house for you, one thing that's often overlooked is the importance of location and surrounding area. Check to make sure that the things that are important to you are located nearby, whether that's a park, or schools or medical facilities, anything that matters to you, make sure you know where they are in relation to the house. If commute time is important to you, do test drives on the times that you would be normally driving to and from work to see how far it is. You don't want to assume that a commute is 20 minutes and then after you buy the house, find out that it's actually 45 or 60 minutes. And finally, drive through the neighborhood on the weekends to make sure that it has the vibe and the feeling that you're looking for. Stop and talk to some neighbors if they're outside. Ask how long they've lived there. If someone's lived there for a few years, they could be a wealth of information on what they like about the neighborhood, what concerns they may have, and that can help to make sure that the house you've found is truly the right house for you. I'm Tricia Johnston with Ladder and Bloom, wishing you a happy and healthy 2021.
Do you need cash? Do you want to consolidate debt? Premier Credit can help. They provide quick and confidential loans for any reason. Their service is same day and most loans are approved within minutes. You can apply in person or by the phone. Their experienced and knowledgeable loan professionals will leave you feeling confident that your loan is being properly handled in a secure manner. Premier Credit can be reached at 225-667-8100, or you can email WeSayYes@premiercredit.com, or stop by and spin the wheel at 139 Del Norte Avenue in Denham Springs. They're open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and are a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. You may wonder why the guy sitting to my right looks so young. When I set out to start Local Leaders, the podcast, if you would have told me I would have a barely 17-year-old junior from Live Oak High School on my show, I would have said you were crazy. But this is no ordinary 17-year-old. Tommy Sigman has been through a lot in 17 years. A mother who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at a young age, a father who suffered from drug addiction, and an unstable childhood in which Tommy found himself in at least 15 different homes in 6 different states by the time he reached the ripe old age of 14. How did this young man not only get through those experiences, but flourish? And in 2020, become a published author on his first book, The Greatest Advantage, Overcoming Obstacles from the Perspective of a 15-year-old foster child. Today, we're going to find out that and a whole lot more. So welcome, Tommy Sigman, to Local Leaders, the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Now, I am super excited to have you on. I actually have a son who is just a little bit older than you. He's a senior at Denham Springs High School. I have 2 twin girls that are 15. So I'm right around your age bracket with people I'm used to talking to, which is a good thing. So I'm very excited to have you on. Now, I became familiar with you through Brandon Browning's podcast, which is the Livingston Parish Thread. They do a great job over there. They're a local podcast as well. And you were on my radar. In between that time, Ray Bajaron of Premier Credit actually reached out to me and he said, "Hey man, you got to have this guy on your podcast. His name is Tommy Sigman. He wrote a book And I stopped him and I said, oh, yeah, I saw him on Brandon's podcast, the original one y'all did. And he said, well, he may be contacting you. I'm going to pass along your number or you can contact him. We got together and here you are. And I am very excited. I watched both episodes, actually, that you did with Brandon on the Livingston Parish Thread. Found them both very informative. And I'll tell you what, you've got a heck of a story. Obviously, you wrote a book on it at 15. I mean, that's amazing. So Brandon did a good job of covering what your book's all about. Y'all actually literally dug into the book, read some passages out of it. And I want to touch on that story, of course, but I also want to cover some things you did that y'all didn't get around to discussing on his podcast. So first, let's cover a little bit of your story. And I guess the best way to start would be to talk about foster care. For those that may not even know what foster care is, give us kind of a good definition of foster care.
So foster care is basically a system for children that kind of had, bad circumstances growing up and their parents aren't fit or aren't in the right place to be able to take care of their children. So foster care's goal is to take the kids and to set them off with a better family until basically their original family or parents can be back in a state where they're able to take care and provide for the children again.
Fantastic. And you'd be surprised, Tommy, how many people don't really realize it. They assume it's the same thing as adoption, or they assume the person has no parents. And in some cases, that is the case. They don't really know the true, definition of foster care. You explained it very well. And what a great program foster care
Absolutely.
is. So your childhood was tough.
Yeah, it had some moments.
It had its moments, and you were raised in a broken home. Your mother had a serious mental disorder. Your father suffers from a drug problem or did. And you and your brother, you have a sibling, younger brother? Okay, so y'all were exposed to this at a very young age.
Yeah.
Now, the sad truth about all of that is, as horrible as it all is, that's not necessarily what makes you different. Because there's kids all over the country with that story, ain't there? I mean, hundreds of thousands. What makes you different and special is the way in which you dealt with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to focus on today. So in my world, we call this in the leadership world an executive summary. And basically an executive summary is a highlight of a story. So for those that have no idea who you are, maybe the one or two, of course, because you've been on Brandon's podcast. So the one or two that may not know who you are, or your story, kind of give us a little executive summary of your life up to this point with what's in your book.
Okay, so go through my whole story kind of in a summary?
Yeah, kind of start off from, where you were born and the circumstances that you went through.
Okay, so I was born in New Orleans, and I was pretty much raised with my mom and my little brother. And there was a lot of moving. I think I went to about 14 schools, while I was 14, like you said. So there was a lot of moving, never really much stability growing up. And it was kind of a different life, like a different childhood, because, most kids grow up with in the same home, in the same area. And I grew up just everywhere. So I had a lot of different experiences and kind of a different perspective of different places since I was a young age. So as I grew older, my mom had some mental illnesses. She was an amazing woman, she was extremely wonderful woman. Like, she's still one of my heroes today. But, she had some really bad bipolar disorder growing up with her. So she was very angry, very violent at times, and it made it really difficult to live with her. So I moved out of her house when I was 12 to live with my dad. And as I was living with my dad, there was a lot of drug addiction, a lot of circumstances that, no kid should really be growing up in. And I knew this wasn't the safest environment for me. And there was food problems and there was various issues. So I moved back with my mom when I was about 13. And I lived with her for a few months and things were going well. But she was still bipolar, so she still had these mental illnesses. And it seemed as if it was even more of an issue than last time. I think when I left and came back, it didn't even feel the same as the bond, if that makes sense.
It does.
So she ended up telling me I had 3 days to leave and I had to find a new family, a place to go. And I was only 13 years old, so I couldn't afford to go take care of myself or anything. But I had an amazing friend who has a wonderful family, and they decided to pay for my plane ticket to move from Florida, where I was staying with my mom, to go move in with them in Louisiana. So I flew there, and their parents, unfortunately, didn't have the financial means to take care of me. They couldn't afford it, so I had to move with another family. And then I recently just moved in with a new family, and this should be the permanent family for sure until I'm 18.
Wow. And
So
that
that's
was
a
a
lot.
great executive summary.
Thank you.
By the way, that was some highlights there. And, so I want to back up a little bit, and I want to kind of get your feelings, opinions, kind of get where your head was at during some of these scenarios. When you're a child or when you're a young adult, you probably don't have a whole lot of option when they say things, and typically with bipolar, it's big time anger. Yeah. It's big time lash out. You can be fine 1 second and the next minute not. And so from a child's standpoint, you're trying to gauge that, because the last thing you want is to see that other side of that person, right? So did you have, I guess one question I'd have for you was there an escape for you? Was there something that, you used as kind of an escape from that?
I was also really big into sports when I was little, but I couldn't really stay on a sports team because, we were always moving. So I joined a team and then leave again. But I think once I got kind of a little older, like in middle school, around like 11 or 12, I think fitness kind of became a big thing for me, like working out, running, stuff like that, because it was the one thing I could control. I was in an environment where I had no control. So in an environment where I could control, how strong I get, how much like I can develop physically, I would feel stronger. And I think it kind of helped me feel stronger than my situation in a sense. Mm-hmm. So that was a big thing for me. I would just go work out. Like I would get really upset or angry and go in my room and do push-ups. And I think that was kind of an escape for me.
I agree. I can see that. Black Sheep Creative understands the importance of digital marketing and your return on your investment. It's their aim to provide professional web and graphic design services at a price point that smaller businesses and startups can afford. Get in touch with them on the web at blacksheepcreative.com. And another question. So, you go through these things and they're tough. And I would imagine as a young man or a child, even at that time, some things were totally not your fault, right? They just you caught someone on a bad day, quote unquote, and it seems like everything's being taken out on you. You had a younger brother there with you that I would imagine also had to deal with some of those same sort of things. So running, a great thing to do because you're kind of getting out of your own way. You're by yourself. Yeah. You're doing something that is good for you, but you kind of had a choice there. You could have went either way, right? You could have also went towards the, especially when you're dealing with a father who has a drug addiction, you could follow in that footstep, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you have a choice of which path you want to take. I find it interesting that your whole life, and you're only 17. I'm 46. So you'll also see this as you get older, that your whole life is full of forks in the road. There's always a path to take. And sometimes you take the wrong one. I've taken the wrong one many, many times in my life. I've learned from those things. So sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world as long as you don't go too far off the path. But sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world to make those mistakes because you learn from them. Yeah. But at the same token, it's, what you did that separates you is you seems like you took the right path with regard to your attitude towards the situation. I heard you say on Brandon's show something that was very interesting, and that was, I looked at those situations as, well, this is something I don't want to do, right? So you had a perfect example of what choosing, say, that path would lead to.
Yeah.
And so you wanted to do the total opposite of that. And that's a pretty amazing thing. As a matter of fact, it's almost unprecedented with people your age. The resentment is the thing that's the hardest to let go of. And, it seems like you've done a good job of figuring it out, because that's a heavy weight, man.
Well, the way I kind of try to think is like my accomplishments, failures, whatever happened yesterday is always going to be in yesterday. Like, it's not going to come back. So whether I accomplished something or did something great yesterday, or if something really bad happened or something bad happened to me yesterday, that was in the past. That was yesterday. It's not coming back. So all I try to focus on is I try to look at, like tomorrow or today. Like, what can I do today to improve my life? What can I do tomorrow to make my life better for tomorrow? Yeah. So if you're always kind of looking for the future, and if you're always looking backwards, like there's nothing back there for me. I know what's back there. I'm gonna focus up on here, and I think that mindset kind of really helps me have a kind of just a positive outlook. It helps me get rid of that resentment, get rid of those negative emotions, because I'm just looking at the bright side, basically.
That's right. And the bright side in the future. Yeah. Because you can't go back and change what has already occurred. I mean, a good person in my life used to tell me the sun's going to come up tomorrow just like it did today. Yeah. Regardless, you can't control that. All you can control is what you do going forward. At 15, there was no way I was thinking about writing my own book. And you actually did. You actually, not only did you write it, you got it published, you got people's interest on it. I've looked at your Facebook. You're a pretty good media guru as well. You're really wise beyond your years, but you had to grow up kind of quick, didn't you? Yeah. I bet you were cooking. You could probably cook your own food and everything by the time you were like 12, huh?
I was making a decent amount of dinners when I was like 13.
Yeah, I can remember doing that too, man.
I mean, they weren't the fanciest dinners. They're a lot of like ramen noodles and stuff.
Mine was cookies and stuff. Cookies? I can bake some cookies now, but I would eat tons of them. But it's funny because well, not funny, but it's interesting that, some benefits to the way some people do grow up is you sure learn to fend for yourself pretty quick in life.
Absolutely.
And that can actually be an advantage when you get older, when you get out into the world, because, you have no worries. So, you know how to cook your own food. You know how to wake yourself up. Yeah. You know how to do those sorts of things. So
it kind of like reminds me like what Mr. Brandon said. He was talking about, he was like, has the obstacles that you've gone through yesterday kind of help you overcome the obstacles today? And I think like, when you go through something like that, through something really negative that seems impossible to get out of, and once you get through it, like after that, every obstacle you go through, you're like, if I've gone through that, I can make it through this, or I can go through this.
That's right.
So every obstacle, everything I've gone through, I think gave me that mental strength to know I can overcome anything. So that's exactly which is essentially the premise of The Greatest Advantage.
Yes. Yeah. And a heck of a book.
Thank you.
It's interesting because the way in which you wrote that book, you can relate whether you're 50 or whether you're 15. It has lessons that anybody can adapt and use in their own life. So I do want to get into that, and we will. But I want to know, here's my first question on that subject. So you're 15, you write a book. First of all, where did you come up with the idea? What, something had to occur where you were like, I need to write this like whole story. So tell me about that.
So actually I wanted to write a book when I was in 3rd grade, because someone told me I couldn't do it as a kid. And when that adult in my life told me, you can't write this book, you're not gonna write a book as a kid. No one's gonna publish it for you. It hasn't been done. I tried my hardest to write this book. I didn't understand it, but I'm kind of oddly competitive. And when someone told me you can't do it at a young age, it drove me crazy. Yeah. So when I was around 15, I had a story. I was like, I have a story, I have life experience. And I've learned a lot from this life experience, and I believe this life experience can help people. And I still remember him telling me that you can't release a book as a kid. So I wrote the book and I published the book, and I think that was kind of where it started, was the idea to write a book, because that's been something in my heart since that moment.
Yeah, and it's you have something there that all leaders have. And that you may not even realize it, but what you have is that part of your brain that when someone tells you you can't do something, it's not a don't tell me I can't do it because I'm going to do it because you say I couldn't. It's a competitiveness that why would you say I'm not capable of doing that? And some of that is in relation to growing up, maybe in a harder childhood.
I think me kind of wanting to prove him wrong was kind of like the start of it, the seed in my head that planted, me wanting to write a book. But I think the greatest advantage, the book itself kind of started from, I have a lot of heroes out there, people that I really admire, like people that came from really negative circumstances, and I've kind of learned a lot from these people. Like I'm a big fan of like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, people of that such, So
10X.
10X, right?
Great book.
Absolutely. So, there's a lot of kids out there, that don't have that example. There's a lot of kids, especially in the foster care system, they might not have that leader or that mentor to kind of show them what that path looks like. And, I still have a lot of flaws myself. I'm still a teenager. I still do teenager things, make mistakes, obviously. But, I want to...
Tommy, come on now.
Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. But, I'm still not a perfect individual, obviously, far from it.
Sure.
But, I think I still wanted to do my best to, guide these kids and people like me in a positive direction, Because if I can even help change one kid's life, then that could end a cycle of future generations of going through the same thing. So that's why I kind of I'm really passionate about just wanting to change kids' perspectives.
There's that word. And that's what passion. Okay, you just said it. Almost every episode. I have a lot of people on here that have succeeded a lot in life and a lot of things, and they all use that word, passion. And you are very passionate about it. And the great thing is, it is very honorable that you want to do that. You want to help someone. And you're exactly right. You changing one situation may have an impact for 10. Yeah. There's no limitation to that. So you wrote this book, and what do you do at that point? Did you just send it off to a bunch of, Random House and all these people and say, here, I wrote a book. I think it's pretty good. Will you publish it? How did that work? I mean, I'm 46. I wouldn't know where to start. How did you get it published? BJ Pawn and Gun has been servicing the Livingston Parish community since 1990. If you need it, there's a good chance BJ Pawn has it. So go see them in Denham Springs. They're a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast.
So I was really blessed to have the contact information of my last foster family. Like my foster aunt, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. She's actually also a published author, and she self-published her book.
Oh, wow.
So I wrote my manuscript, and I sent it to some editors, and they edited it for me. And once the manuscript was complete, then the lady helped me self-publish it. She taught me, where you go to get the ISBN number, which is like the barcode, basically. And she went and taught me, she's like, here's how you put it on these, they give it to this distributor. So she basically kind of taught me what I need to do and how to get there. So she was a huge help. Without her, I don't know if I would have been able to get to it eventually, but I don't know if it would have been
that fast.
Yeah, that fast.
I gotcha. Yeah, so that's good, and that always helps because she kind of been down that road.
Yeah,
and she's helping you along the way. So I downloaded your book and I got it on Amazon or I think it was Amazon Books. Yeah, that I downloaded it on or whatever, where it comes on your iPad. But I would like to see some local people carry it. So we're going to reach out to some people that we know and see about getting this book, especially now that you're making kind of the podcast rounds, because people are going to be looking for it. And we want those dollars, of course, stay local. If we can keep them there, we love our local folks. And so we'll take care of all that. Now in this book, the thing that grabbed me right from the start was the table of contents. It provides a lot to your roadmap for overcoming the adversity that you faced, but really overcoming adversity in general. It doesn't have to necessarily be your situation to learn from this book, and that's what makes it so great. Now, I want to take these in order, starting with the first, which is titled Adapt and Overcome. Okay, so how important do you feel it is for people to adapt? And then when you say adapt and overcome, is that adapt to me is almost like another word for acceptance. So you adapt to your situation. You're kind of accepting that this is what I'm in, and then you work to overcome it would be kind of my definition of it. Now, how did you do that?
Well, if it's a situation you can't change, then yeah, you're going to have to accept it and figure out how you can do to get past it.
Right.
But I mean, if it's a situation that does have change, because I think a lot of adversity is kind of not like foster children in a sense, but there's a lot of adversity that's out there, I think is kind of put on by ourselves, you know. So if it's something that we can change and we can, you know, make a different situation out of it, then we should change the situation and overcome it. But if it is a situation that's inevitable, that you're stuck in the situation, then you're gonna have to just accept it and figure out a way to still be happy through it, or just change your perspective towards it.
I agree 100%. And that is a good point you bring up. And that is that a lot of times with situations that we're in, we kind of self-create the issues.
Yeah.
So here's a example I'll throw out there. You have a job and you're trying to progress through your job, but you're someone that's constantly late.
Yeah.
It's probably not a good way to get a promotion, right?
Exactly.
So how do you fix that situation? Well, you know, you start showing up on time. So it's an issue. You have the desire that you want to promote through your job, for example, but you're not doing the steps that you need to take in order for you to get promoted, which would be showing up on time in that example. So you're exactly right. Probably the majority of situations that people are in, not all, but the majority are self-created. Yeah. So they have to, you know, you almost have to look at what you're trying to accomplish and then figure out maybe where you're going wrong. You know, what do I need to sharpen up on? Do I need to, if you're in school, do I need to study a little more to make a better grade in this class? I don't know why I'm making a C, but you're never cracking a book. Well, study a little more. Maybe you'll get that B. So that's a good point there. Now, your second chapter is called Learn to Deal with Your Pain. That's a tough one. That's a hard one to kind of do. You did it. And the great thing is you kind of go into detail on how you did that. And I think it is a great suggestion for people, no matter what your age. People have pain. They have things that go through in their life that they need to deal with and in order to move forward, right?
Exactly.
Even if a lot of people lose loved ones and they push that back there, right? They push it back and they don't deal with it. They don't think about, I don't want to think about it. You know, those sorts of things. Eventually that's going to surface.
Yeah. It's going to come out eventually.
Yeah, it is. And if it comes out when it wants to come out and you can't push it back anymore, it's probably going to be bad. So you need to deal with it from the onset. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think a lot of people go through a situation, and you know, I think like 99% of the situation is just, you know, how you deal with it, how you go about it. So like a situation like we said earlier, like, you know, with my dad and my dad's side of the family, there's a lot of substance abuse, and that's what I was around a lot. You know, I had a choice to deal with it through working out or to try to get a hold of substances. So, you know, every situation you get, I think it's just about how you deal with it.
Did you ever have a situation where you called him out on it?
My dad?
Yeah.
We had a few conversations about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably tough.
I mean, he's recovering now, so
good for him.
Yeah, he's doing really good now.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. That's a tough thing, addiction.
Yeah.
To deal with. And I was very blessed. I don't have really an addictive personality, but you know, I've been around people who have, and it's a problem in our country, really in the world, and something that's very hard to overcome. So I'm glad to hear that.
I think it's because people don't want to properly deal with their pain. You know, it's the easy way out.
It is. It masks the problem.
Yeah, it's a mask.
Yeah.
It's obviously more difficult to go into a situation in a way that is gonna, because like, you know, with that you can numb yourself, numb your feelings, your emotions, but that's not gonna help make you better. That's not gonna help you grow. Because with pain, if you take all your pain and help it make you grow, then it's one of the greatest things that can happen to you. Like, I think my story is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And if I would have gone the route of substances, then that would have just taken that all away. That would have just add to the adversity.
Yeah. Yeah. You're 100%. I wish I could argue with that, but I really can't. So let's go to number 3. Establish a vision. This one I like a lot. Vision is important, is it not?
It's everything.
everything. If you don't have that vision, you will never go forward. You will basically go through life like a feather. You're just hopping from place to place. You have no vision. To me is sort of like goal. You have to have a goal. So tell me your thoughts on establishing a vision.
Well, I actually recently heard this really good analogy by kind of like a mentor to me. And he said, life is kind of like a boat. With a boat, there's a captain that has the destination of where you're going. So, you might get off course, you might start drifting away, but then you rotate and you pivot to go back to that destination, and you always know where you're going. But if you're on the boat and you're just going wherever the water takes you, there's no telling where you're going to end up. You can end up anywhere. So I think the same thing is kind of true with life. If you have a vision, you have goals, and you're working towards getting you to that vision, towards accomplishing those goals, then you know where you're going. You know your future's taking you. But when you're just living life day by day, you're just going through the motions, seeing what happens every day. You're not going to any particular destination. You're just wandering through life, and you could end up anywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. And now, did you read a lot? Tiffany C-Card with HomeKey Mortgage combines the experience and knowledge you need to make your mortgage loan a smooth, stress-free process. Reach out to Tiffany for more information on the vast mortgage programs available in the Livingston Parish area. Tiffany C-Card of HomeKey Mortgage, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. When you were younger. I was about to say when you were younger. But when you were younger, I mean, you're not that old now, but when you were younger, did you read a lot?
I read more now. I wasn't as big on it when I was younger, but I started recently getting into kind of more books now that I'm in high school.
Yeah. I have always been a reader.
That's good.
And, the first book I ever read on self-improvement, I was probably 12. Yeah. And I read a book by a guy named Zig Ziglar. And it was on goal setting. And I started setting goals every day at the age of 12. Yeah. And I had been setting goals before that because I would have things like I want to work out, or I want to be able to do 20 push-ups or 10 push-ups, or you pick a number. But goal setting, to me, whether you're my age or your age, one of the most important things you can do in the world. And I still to this day set daily goals, monthly goals, and yearly goals, personal and business.
Yeah.
And because the personal, you don't want to forget about either, even if it's spend a little more time with my family or something like that. So
that helps you kind of balance out life, I think.
It really does. And especially with high performers, you're usually way out of balance.
Yeah.
Way out of balance. Business owners especially, usually 90% of their time is on their business, 10% of their time on their family, and it has nothing to do with love. It has to do with drive. And, most of these people are so driven to succeed and driven to actually accomplish something that they're pushing that to the side without intentionally doing it.
Yeah.
And it's a very hard balance, my friend. But you've got to jump on everybody else. I mean, you wrote the book on it, for crying out loud. Very good. Number 4, choose gratitude. Love that one too.
Thank you.
Probably one of the ones that most people don't choose, sadly.
Especially my age, I've noticed.
Especially your age. Yeah, I mean, a lot of kids are your age are in the I deserve this. Entitlement. That's the word I'm looking. Thank you. Entitlement. They feel entitled.
Yeah.
And so, tell me a little bit about that. Choose gratitude.
I think a lot of kids my age, I'm constantly hearing kids, complain about their parents, and they're like, "Oh man, my mom's the worst. This is, she didn't let me go to the movies this Friday," and I'm thinking, I couldn't live in my house at 13. Yeah. But I don't think kids, especially in this area, realize how good we have. Even including myself, realize how good we have it. Because we have more than the majority of the world out there, and we don't realize how rich we really are in life, and so we lose all that. So I think when I kind of went from my mom's house, where my mom was a really big provider for me, she gave me what she needed, but she wasn't there emotionally. She had that emotional aspect that made me have to leave. Whereas I moved in with my dad, And, I wasn't provided a whole lot at all. I had to start working. I started making money, start taking care of myself. He was one of my best friends, but I was a provider for myself. And that kind of shifted my perspective of, I really see now how much our parents do for us. So, if our parents want to make a rule, like, I don't think you should go out this Saturday night. I mean, your mom does everything for you. Like, you should respect and honor that. And I don't think a lot of kids think like that, unfortunately.
I would agree, and I don't know that the majority of them it's necessarily out of ugliness or whatever. I think it's just kind of always been that way. They kind of always got 100 presents at Christmas, and so this is just another year, and I don't think that a lot of kids do it out of just, it's just sheer spoiledness, probably is another word for kids, but even adults. There's adults that, and I'll be the first to raise my hand and say that 10 years ago, maybe even as little as 5 years ago, I did not give back like I should. I did the normal things. I tithed at my church or those sorts of things, but I did not give my time as much as I felt like I should have. As I grew older and started looking at, I'm not really giving back like I should. That's an important part, Tommy. So I encourage everyone out there, and I'm sure Tommy does too, that find something you're passionate about and maybe try to give back a little bit. And we're going to talk about your nonprofit in a little while, and we'll talk about already at your young age you're starting to give back a little bit. Now opportunities are everywhere. That's number 5. Are they really?
Absolutely, they're everywhere.
Tell me about that. Tell me about opportunities and how people can go to finding those. Do you just need to look?
The more you look, the more you're gonna find them. I think opportunities are kind of like like a new pair of shoes, for example. Once you get this new pair of shoes or a new car, you're gonna notice how many other people have the same thing, or how many of them are out there that you didn't notice before. I think the same thing with opportunities. When I'm looking for ways to succeed, looking for ways to grow and opportunities, the more I'm thinking of them and I'm looking for them, the more I notice, the more I'm gonna find. And especially in a day and age with social media and the whole world is connected, you can, if like this podcast, for example, like Brandon Browning's podcast, I saw these were opportunities and I decided to make an effort to reach out with you guys, and they're everywhere out there. So I think if anyone, has a goal, has a vision, there's no reason that they can't accomplish it, because there's always opportunities.
There sure are. And you're right in that all you have to do is kind of look. Yeah. But you have to slow down and you have to take notice of what's around you and then use it to where you're trying to go. So in your case, I'm wanting to get the word on my book out. And the way that I do that is to go through the airwaves. And what better way to do that is to go on podcasting. Yeah. And especially guys with, good audiences and things like that where I can get my name out. That's another true one, Tommy. And I'm sitting here, and as I read these, I'm like, this dude was 15 when he was Q sitting over here. McHugh, he was 15, McHugh. Is that not amazing? I mean, it's really unbelievable and impressive. Now, number 6, make the difference. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that? That's
kind of like the give back you're just talking about. It's all about giving back. Yeah. And I think when we have a goal that's focused on ourselves, that's gonna be drive us, until I think we burn out, or until I think it kind of, when we have that moment of laziness or that moment of, I'm not feeling it one day. I think when you're focused on yourself and your own life and just me, then that's only going to drive you so far. It's only going to make you so motivated. Yeah. But when you're saying that every morning I'm waking up and I'm going to accomplish this goal and I'm going to work my hardest, not for me, but for them, for the other foster kids, for the other kids in similar circumstances, or whatever motivates you, whatever group of people out there that needs your help. When you're working for them, I think it adds a whole new element of motivation and a whole new element of drive every day.
That is very true. And it's not only the feeling that you get. I feel good when I make a difference. If I felt like I made a difference in you selling 2 more books, that's going to make me feel good. Yeah. And that's always a nice benefit. But when you really sit back and you look at your life, no matter what age you are, you want to make sure there's some balance there with what you're giving back versus what you're taking. That will just make you a better person.
Absolutely.
In my opinion. So,
and I think giving is like one of the best feelings you can receive.
Absolutely. Stephanie Berthelot and the crew at SR Enterprise can handle it all, from sheetrock to texture to paint. Give Stephanie a call at 504-432-9284. SR Enterprise, where they spread the paint and you spread the word. 100% agree. Number 7, I like that one. Be genuine. So, are you a genuine guy?
I try to be.
Yeah, you're an open book, literally. Boy, I'm full of the little puns today. Open book,
That was a good one.
Yeah. So you're, Tommy, important and probably something, especially people your age, fight with a lot.
Absolutely.
Is the fact to be who they really are, right? I dealt with it at your age. Everybody cares about acceptance, and so sometimes you may lose yourself a little bit trying to be what everybody else thinks you are, or trying to fit in with the crowd or whatever it is. And so it's hard to be genuine, right?
It's difficult.
It really is. But when you're genuine, you get to know yourself. Do you see that a lot with people your age where they struggle maybe to be genuine?
Mr. Brandon asked me, what's the biggest insecurity? Or I'm sorry, the biggest problem with people my age. And I answered, I think insecurity. I think people are always trying to act like each other, especially in high school. There's enough of of people acting like this out there. I think we need more of you, to the other high schoolers out there, if that makes sense. There's enough copycats. We need people that are leaders, people that are kind, people that show, not try to act like somebody else or to impress people, but people that are just kind and true to themselves.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's sad that there's kids and they're in high school and maybe they feel like they don't fit in with anybody.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they may just not be the athlete.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody has, they probably have some insane strengths that, I'll probably never have, or most of the other people probably never have.
And maybe you could learn something from them.
Exactly.
And that's something that I always strive to. I've always had a wide realm of interest. So even in high school, I kind of hung around with everybody, because if you were someone that was different in any kind of way, I wanted to kind of get to know you. And that was appealing to me, but a tough thing, especially but even my age, man, there's people that walk around and they're not who they truly are. They're playing that game for professional reasons or whatever. And so very good advice. Thank there. You.
And in high school, you never know. The person you're making fun of, they might own the company in 15 years. They might be your boss in 15 years. So
it happens all the time.
Exactly.
Brother.
So I wouldn't.
They're dating the prom queen. And yeah, trust me. Yeah, yes, it happens more than you think. and I agree with you 100%. So remember that, all of you. So number 8, probably the most important on your chapter list there, and that is love yourself. And that kind of goes into being genuine to me, because in order to be genuine, you have to love yourself at some point. That's hard to do, right?
It is hard to do.
Yeah. I get a feeling from you that you were someone that was able to kind of grasp that at some point where, you obviously love yourself now. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. It's not like you think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you're comfortable in your own skin, right?
I think when I wrote that, I believe I was also mainly talking about being disciplined.
Yeah.
Love yourself enough to do what's hard, to push yourself, because, it's hard to really point out, think of all the negative things about yourself and just be so focused on your flaws and insecurity when you're focused on growing, when you're focused on becoming better. Yeah. So when you're seeing results and you're seeing development, I don't think you're going to be as focused as all those insecurities. You're going to be focused on, wow, look how far I've come. Look at the progress I'm making. So love yourself really comes down to self-discipline and push yourself to make yourself better.
Absolutely. It does. And, you're always going to be your worst critic, in my opinion. If someone looks in the mirror, they're going to hate things about themselves that other people don't even notice. My ears are too big, or my nose is too small, or, my love handles or whatever. And somebody else might look at you and they think you're the most beautiful person in the world. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. People do focus too much on the negative aspects, but if there is something you don't like, take the steps to change it.
Exactly.
And get the discipline to follow through.
I also think people believe that people are way more concerned with them than they really are. Like, if you have a pimple, you're all insecure about that pimple, but everyone else is worried about their pimple. No.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good way to look at it. It is very true. They do. They worry about, something you see is 10 times worse than anybody else. Usually 99% of the time sees that.
Yeah.
And so you're always going to be your worst critic, so to speak. And it's accepting you for your flaw. We all have flaws.
Yeah.
We all have things. I don't have no hair, Tommy. I don't know if you noticed, but
I couldn't even tell.
Trust me when I tell you it's a great life though when you don't, man. You ain't got to worry about brushing it. You get out the shower, just towel it off. It's awesome. Oh, I love it. I don't know that I would go back to growing hair even if I could.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, I love it, man. It's great. I'm glad you do. That's awesome. Okay, number 9, execution. So you've figured out all these things. You know that you need to establish a vision. You need to learn to deal with your pain, adapt and overcome. You need to make a difference. You need to be genuine, love yourself, all those sorts of things. Now it comes down to execution. Tell me about that.
That's all about applying the rest of it. But you can read the whole book, and if you don't apply any of it, then none of it's gonna matter. Because you can hear good advice, and you can think like that can resonate in your head, and you can say, "Wow, that makes sense." That's good advice. But if you don't apply it, then it's not going to make any change in your life. You heard all this advice essentially for nothing because you're not applying it. So this is all about actually putting in the work and doing it. Applying that knowledge. That way you can better yourself.
That's exactly right. And that is probably where most people fail. So they know the steps, Tommy, but it's the hard that they don't want to go through. So you know that opportunities are everywhere, but it's not necessarily easy to spot those. Maybe you've got to do a little thinking and a little discovery to find them. And so they don't execute. They know what they have to do, but they don't follow through.
They'll talk about it, but
Yes. So execution is probably the part where people just, fail. They just stop. And that's something, whether you are 17 or whether you are 70, people deal with. But usually the ones that execute, those are the ones that see results.
Yeah.
They may not always pan out the way you planned. Maybe you do something to the nth degree and you really do execute it, but it just doesn't work out. You'll never look back on that and say, I didn't even try.
Exactly.
Or I didn't follow through with all this stuff.
Better to try and fail than not try, for sure.
That's right. Now, are you familiar with the foster village?
Yes, sir. I was there 2 nights ago.
Really?
I was bringing, I don't know if you noticed, but I did a drive on Facebook where I was getting people to buy a book for a foster kid. So they were purchasing books, and I was getting the books. I was putting my number in it so the foster children can receive it for Christmas. They can talk to me if they want to or reach out to me. And we were putting them in the kids' Christmas presents.
That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
That's really great. And I'm a big supporter of the foster village. I actually donated the paint for all of their little houses deals that they got there. And it's located in Walker for the people that aren't familiar with it. What about CASA? Are you familiar with CASA?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm in CASA.
Okay. And that's court-appointed special advocates for those that may not be familiar. I also support them. So
yeah, they're a great organization.
Shout out to them. They really are. And we have a lot of supporters here in Livingston Parish of CASA, some pretty well-known business owners that support that organization. They do great work over there. But speaking of those nonprofits, you have you never cease to amaze me, Tommy. You have a nonprofit that you're working on. I think it's pretty close to completion, and I want to hear all about it.
Thank you. So it should be done in January. And the goal of the nonprofit, basically the premise of it, is we're taking kids that have come from negative circumstances, such as myself, or kids that are in foster care, or just kids with behavior issues, and we're gonna put them through my organization. That's basically like a class. It's gonna teach these things that they might not have someone else telling them, or the school doesn't teach them things about how to set goals and establish a vision, how how to love yourself, relationship skills, such as how to be a proper parent, a proper spouse, and one day in the future. Basically teaching these things to help them become a successful individual in the future. That way that cycle doesn't continue, and that way we can try to help them be the game changer for their future generations, help them stop the cycle with them. So it's kind of just a mentoring organization, and we're going to get mentors, and the mentors are going to get involved with the kids and spend time with them, teach them the classes. We're setting up a curriculum for them, and basically just be the role model that children need.
Very good. And Tommy, I'm a big believer in mentors.
Me too.
So I came across, when I was much younger, a mentor at the age of probably 18. It was my first kind of real job that I had. And it was a guy that was ex-military, and he was high up in a company. And he took a liking to me for whatever reason and kind of mentored me. And I was at those forks, especially at that age. And he kept me on the right side of that path rather than the left side. And I looked up to him a lot. And so I didn't want to let him down.
Yeah.
And so that drove me a lot to stay on that right path. I don't even think he knew he was doing it, Tommy. He was just who he was. And I respected him, and I thought the world of him. And he was a mentor. Do you think that that's a big issue with kids that maybe have, whether it's drug problems or legal problems or whatever, is they don't have that right mentor?
Absolutely. When I was younger, I remember when I was 13 and I was sitting in my room, and my house was like filthy, really gross. We didn't have much food. And I was like, I remember thinking in my head, which is one of the seeds I think that planted in my mind that kind of helped cause me to start this. And when at that time, I was like, man, I wish I had somebody, just even one person that could tell me what to do to grow from this, that could teach me how to basically, not continue this. I wish I had somebody out there that could inspire me, or not inspire me, because just more just like be that person that I needed to help me change my mindset. And I didn't really have that person growing up, not consistently, at least throughout my life, throughout my childhood. So I was like, I think this is something that every kid needs. A role model is something one role model could really just change a kid's life. And I think this is something that could really help, end the cycles of future generations if every kid had that positive role model.
So, okay, so here's a question that I have for you. How did you get this mindset so that you have a very positive mindset? I had that at your age. You remind me of me, Tommy, or whatever. But I was a lot like you, and different in that way. Very positive, very goal-oriented. But I had a lot of books that I read on it. And I think I started just emulating those characters in those books, even though they were real people. Were you just kind of always like this? Were you just kind of always that driven? I want to be. I mean, you're a really good kid, Tommy.
Thank you. I think there was always a part of me. There was always a part of me growing up that knew I had some kind of potential. I didn't know what it was, but ever since I was a little kid, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that when I get older, there's a part of me that just knows I have potential to do something big one day. And I'm still not even sure if I've hit that yet, but I know one day, since I was a little kid, that's always been in my brain. It's like, you're going to do something one day that's going to hopefully change the world. And that's how I've always thought. So I think that seed's always been in there since I was a little kid. But I mean, I haven't always been like this. When I was younger, especially when I was living with my mom as a young child, and there was those problems, there was a lot of resentment. There was a lot of anger, a lot of, depression in a sense. So there definitely was I was falling into the cycle, emotionally, just emotionally drained when I was a little kid. But as I got older, I realized, I was like, if I am gonna, that part of me that has the potential, that wants to change the world, if I'm gonna actually do something with my life, I can't keep on thinking like this. I can't be depressed. I can't be angry. Obviously, I can have pitfalls and I can have my moments where I stumble. But I was like, I need a mindset that's gonna really help me get somewhere, to get to where I want to go. So I think mindset is everything. So I said earlier, you want to have a map to where you're going, in a ship, kind of like how a sailor knows where he's going. You want to have the right mindset to bring you to where you want to go. Because if I want to be a person that's going to make big change and have and do high performance things, I need to be that in here first. So as I got older, I just started studying successful people and trying to figure out how can I grow? How can I get better? And every day it's just a constant quest to development.
Honest question here, and that's great. Look, I can't even expand on that. What you just said, you said it perfectly.
Thank you.
But here's an honest question here. Do you believe you have limitations?
Absolutely.
What do you think? I mean, limitations do you think there's things you just cannot do?
In a sense, the way I think, obviously, I'm still an extremely flawed person and everything, but I think if anyone has ever accomplished something from circumstances worse than mine or similar to mine, which has always been done, then I can do it as well. If someone has taken a circumstance and became something out of it, then I think I can do the same thing.
I think you can too. And that's something in my life. I've never had limitations in my own head of what I thought was possible for myself.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've tried to instill in anyone that I would mentor, whether it be my kids or whoever would listen, is that, your only limits are the ones you place on yourself. Of course, there are things that maybe as a person, someone's just not capable of doing. My son is extremely smart, math wise, off the charts. I'm not. Let's just say that. So I'm not going and building a rocket ship.
Yeah.
But I don't have the desire to build a rocket ship. But you better believe if it's something I desire doing, I don't believe that there's a limitation there. I believe I can accomplish whatever I work hard to do.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's something that I hope all kids, young adults, really that it resonates with them, because you've accomplished, Tommy, in a short amount of time here. I mean, when you get my age, 15 years is nothing. 16 years is nothing. It goes so fast. You've already accomplished in that little bit of time what some of us try a lifetime to accomplish. And that's something you ought to be very proud of yourself. And I'm sure you are. But it's exceptional.
Thank you.
So I do want to mention that. Your nonprofit, I think, is a great thing. I want you to get me some information, email that to me, because I want to support that. And I want local leaders to support that a little bit. And maybe me and Casey can come up with some innovative ideas where, we do maybe a mentor scholarship every year or something.
That would be a huge help.
That program. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and we're going to work on getting your book here locally and talk to the local bookstore here and say, hey, man, you need to carry about 50 copies of this. You'll sell them in a heartbeat. But whatever we got to do, we want to get your book here. I know you can download it online through Amazon. How else can you get it, or is that the only two formats?
You can order my book off my website, theirgreatestadvantage.org. And it just, you go on my website and there's just like a Buy the Greatest Advantage, like right there.
Yeah, there you go. So everybody do that, and we'll cover in a minute. Incidentally, I'm going to link Brandon Browning's podcast to this podcast. And the reason I'm going to do that, you did too with him. Very good. His were a little bit different than mine because Brandon went so in depth in your book, and I mean in depth. I didn't want to just copy that because then it would have been repetitive. But I will link it to my podcast so people, because what I want to do is give you the teaser, and then I want you to go buy the book, because we want this dude, this dude to get some really good play on these podcasts. And I think you will, as far as that goes, but kudos to you, man.
Thank you.
I would, you're welcome on here anytime. When you get your nonprofit up and running, I want you to come back and we're going to talk about your nonprofit.
I would love to.
On my podcast, one thing we do is we do a little fun facts every week on whatever subject it is we're talking about. And today we talked about nonprofits a lot, and we talked about foster care a lot. So I did some on foster care. some little fun facts to discuss. So here's one, and you'll probably it would be no surprise to you, but in the United States, 442,995 children are living without permanent families in the foster care system. Okay. Now, of those, 123,000 are eligible for adoption. So one thing I would say, look into your foster care programs. I have a lot of friends that foster. Probably a strange amount of friends to have. I was surprised because when I was growing up, Tommy, foster care was not as out there as it is now. People had the assumption that when you were in foster care, it's because you were a bad kid or something. I mean, it was, honestly, it just wasn't talked about enough for people to be educated on it. So I'm glad that we're out there talking about it and it's more prevalent. But I have a lot of friends that foster children, and I think it's a great thing to do. It's very unselfish. You're giving of yourself, and you're making a huge difference in a child's life. Wow.
Huge impact.
Yeah, just a great thing. So that's that stat. We need to, we need to work on bringing that stat down. Maybe and getting these people some permanent families.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be a great thing. So. William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance in Denham Springs can service all of your insurance needs. Offering auto, life, health, and commercial insurance, William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance is a proud supporter of Local Leaders, the podcast. Despite the common perception that the majority of children in foster care are very young, the average age of kids in foster care is 9.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
it's they're actually at a little bit older age than what I would have thought. I would have thought they would have been younger than that.
That's what I would have assumed too.
Yeah. So 3 years is the average length of time a child in foster care waits to be adopted. Roughly 55% of these children had 3 or 4 placements. So just a little stat there on that. In 2017, 44% of children in foster care were white, 23% African American, 21% Hispanic for those people that break it up by nationality or whatever. In 2016, more than 17,000 young people whom states failed to reunite with their families aged out of foster care. I didn't even know you could age. I get. What is that like? What does that mean? Like you become a certain age and you just kind of almost emancipated, or
basically, you kind of like foster care. At least for me, I'm doing a thing called extended foster care, which is a more recent thing. Yeah. So I'm going to be in foster care, I believe, until I'm like 23, and there's a lot of college benefits to it. There's a lot of economic, like financial benefits to it, like as far as health insurance and help with housing and stuff. For a few years. So I believe they still help you kind of get in your feet and kind of get started in life.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, so you have a cross, so you strong in your faith?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Plays a big part in your life.
It's everything for my life.
Very good. Very good. What do you plan on doing, Tommy, when you leave Live Oak? You going to college? And you need to. I
think so.
I think you'd be perfect for it. Either that or just go ahead and write more books. I mean, you've already published one.
Yeah.
So, but you're a sharp young kid. I see you doing a lot of great things.
Thank you.
In this world, and man, I can't wait to have you back on. We talk about your nonprofit and things like that. Future's very bright, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Usually you'll sit kids down and you got 100 words of advice for them, but you're someone that you've kind of got a lot of it figured out, man. You're impressive. Tell these folks where they can find you on the web.
So you can go to my Facebook page. You look up Tommy Sigman, and it's Tommy Sigman with like 2 little eyes because I'm the second. And there's a picture of me, signing a book, and that's my Facebook page. You can also find me on Instagram at the Tommy Sigman.
The Tommy Sigman. I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. So you can find him, and I'm going to link all your social media to this video. So I'll make it easy for you. You just click it. Just go down to mine, click it, follow Tommy. It's really going to help him on all his social media, and it'll make me look good. So at least make me look good, people. And follow Tommy. Trust me, this kid's got an amazing thing going on pretty much every day. I mean, you're a mover and shaker, Tommy.
Thank you. And I should have a YouTube channel by the time this is out. So
Sweet.
If you look up Tommy Sigman on YouTube, hopefully by this time there will be something.
Well, I was going to tell you, for you make, if you did a podcast, man.
I think I'm going to.
That would be fantastic. You get good at it. You'd have a lot of followers. I mean, you got a great personality too.
Thank you.
So I recommend you check out, obviously, all of that. As we discussed earlier, I'm going to link the Livingston Parish Thread videos to this podcast where Tommy was a guest. Those folks are doing great work over there. And so check out Brandon Browning's podcast as well. One thing I bet is Mr. Brandon Browning did not have parting gifts for you. I actually have that. I have a box for you somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's back here. So we'll give it to you after, but it's a big box and it is full of swag, man. You got all kinds of stuff in there. You're going to open that thing up. It's going to be like a Christmas gift from us to you.
Wow, thank you so much.
You can text a picture to Brian and mess with him. Say, hey, I didn't get this on your show. He's going to love that. So make sure you check that out. I do want to thank McHugh David for engineering this podcast. Thank you, McHugh. Casey McMurray, who is in my background here for producing Local Leaders of the Podcast. Of course, Tommy Sigman for joining me on today's podcast. Check out his book, folks. You won't be sorry. If you have kids, have them read it. Have them read it or read it to them, whatever you got to do. But this guy has a great future. We'll have to get you speaking engagements somewhere, man. You get up and speak in front of
I was speaking before COVID. I had some engagements going on.
See what I'm saying? Well, that's awesome. Well, good deal. Well, we'll get, once COVID gets over with, everybody gets their shot. We're gonna get out there speaking, you and me both.
Sounds awesome.
Take you under my wing, Tommy. How about that? The Livingston Parish News for the space, and all you viewers and listeners for your support. Follow me on social media and spread the word. I would love to thank my sponsors as always. I couldn't do any of this without my sponsors. Thank you very much for supporting me. If you're interested in sponsoring Local Leaders of Podcast, please reach out by emailing Casey McMurray at casey@localleadersofpodcast.com. Until next time, I am Jim Chapman reminding you, love your community, support local business, buy Tommy's book, and keep leading. Thank you. Dane Arnold with iTrade Exchange has been enabling small business in the Livingston Parish area to save cash through his network of over 300 participating Livingston Parish businesses. Saving cash by trading services with other exchange members is what iTrade Exchange is all about. For more information, contact Dane Arnold at 225-205-3640. or visit iTradeExchange.biz. Sporting Center in Denham Springs is your one-stop shop for team sports equipment, school uniforms, and promotional goods. Conveniently located next to the Antique Village since 1977. Sporting Center, your business means everything to them because your name rides on everything they do.